The closer we get to the 2026 season, the more it feels like something completely different is happening inside the Philadelphia Eagles organization, and honestly, one of the biggest signs is sitting right in front of everyone with the way Jalen Hurts has been carrying himself this offseason. You can see it in the practices, in the videos coming out of the facility, in the way teammates are talking about him, and especially in the way he's responding to questions. But there's a different energy around QB1 right now, and people inside the building are clearly noticing it. A lot of that seems connected to the offensive changes taking place around him. The transition into Sean Mannion's system has created serious excitement throughout the offense, and according to the reports coming from inside the organization, Hurts has completely bought into what they are building. After dealing with constant coordinator changes over the years, there's a belief that this system may finally unlock another level of consistency and explosiveness from the Eagles offense. What's especially interesting is that several analysts around the league still seem unsure about whether Hurts can thrive in this new structure, but inside Philadelphia, there doesn't appear to be much concern at all. In fact, there's confidence growing that this could actually benefit him more than people realize. One former coach pointed out how Hurts completely transformed his passing game after struggling early in his career, specifically mentioning how quickly he adapted after that difficult playoff loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers years ago. The point being made is simple. Every time Hurts gets challenged, he usually responds with improvement. And that mentality apparently looks even stronger right now. Lincoln Riley recently shared that Hurts seems more locked in than usual this offseason, and that lines up with what's happening behind the scenes. Jeremy Fowler reported that Hurts has been spending significant extra time working with DeVonta Smith and Elijah Moore away from the team facility. That chemistry building matters because this receiving group suddenly looks much deeper and much more dangerous than many fans expected a few months ago. One player creating a ton of buzz right now is Dontavion Wicks. Internally, there's growing belief that Wicks could become one of the surprise pieces of this offense. The Eagles love the different skill set he brings compared to some of the other receivers on the roster, and his familiarity with concepts similar to Sean Mannion's offense makes him an even more natural fit. The most important part, though, is the motivation behind him arriving in Philadelphia. According to his trainer David Robinson, Wicks is extremely motivated to prove Green Bay made a mistake moving on from him, and when you start looking at the actual numbers, it becomes easier to understand why the Eagles are intrigued. Back in 2024, Wicks recorded the second best separation percentage in football at 75%. He also ranked 4th in ESPN's open score metric, which measures how effectively a receiver creates separation against coverage. That is not accidental production. The issue that hurt him previously was drops. He had 8 dropped passes in 2024, which became a major concern, but there was improvement afterward, reducing that number significantly. If the Eagles coaching staff can help stabilize that part of his game, they may have quietly landed one of the more underrated route runners in the league. And here's what really caught people's attention. His trainer compared his potential ceiling to Chris Godwin. Now, obviously, nobody inside the organization is saying Wicks already is that level of player, but the fact that someone who trains elite NFL receivers even sees similarities, there is enough to create excitement. Imagine adding that type of route running presence alongside DeVonta Smith, Elijah Moore, and the rest of this offense. Suddenly, the Eagles look capable of attacking defenses from every angle. Then there's My Lemon, another player generating serious excitement inside the building. Coaches and analysts believe the new offensive structure is almost tailor-made for his strengths. The offense is expected to feature more under-center formations, more motion before the snap, more condensed receiver alignments, and quicker separation concepts. That fits Lemon perfectly because his game is built on precision route running, quickness at the top of routes, and creating separation rather than simply overpowering defenders physically. Several people around the team believe Lemon could become one of the hidden gems of this offense very quickly. Meanwhile, the culture inside the building seems noticeably stronger than it did last season. There's real optimism surrounding the chemistry of the offense, and despite outside criticism, the Eagles players themselves appear fully invested in what's being built. Kevin Patolo even talked recently about how much pride he takes in helping build the program from the ground up during this era of Eagles football, though some fans reacted negatively to those comments considering frustrations from previous offensive struggles. Still, internally, the confidence remains high, and honestly, maybe the biggest proof of how respected this team still is around the NFL came with the schedule release. The Eagles received 8 standalone primetime games, the most in the entire league. Teams do not get that kind of spotlight unless the NFL believes people want to watch them every single week, whether it's because of expectations, star power, drama potential, or simply because the Eagles continue being one of the biggest brands in football right now. The league clearly views Philadelphia as must-see television heading into 2026. At the same time, the pressure is massive. An AFC executive even suggested that if Hurts struggles in this offense, questions about his long-term future could eventually surface as his athleticism changes later in his career. But if there's one thing Eagles fans already know about Jalen Hurts, it's that criticism usually fuels him more than anything else. The more doubt surrounding him, the more dangerous he tends to become. And maybe that's why this offseason feels different. Maybe that's why teammates keep talking about the energy around the offense. Maybe that's why the Eagles themselves seem so confident about what's coming next, because inside that building, there appears to be a belief that this offense is about to become something much bigger than people outside Philadelphia are expecting. But the real question is this: if Jalen Hurts fully unlocks this new offense with all these weapons around him, just how dangerous can the Eagles actually become in 2026? If that belief inside the building is actually real, then the 2026 season could end up becoming one of the most important years of the entire Nick Sirianni era, because when you really study the way the schedule falls for Philadelphia, the opportunity is sitting right there in front of them. And honestly, the NFL basically confirmed how highly they think about this Eagles team the moment the full schedule became official. 8 standalone primetime games is not normal. That is the league putting Philadelphia in front of the entire country over and over again because they expect drama, star power, huge ratings, and meaningful football deep into the season. Whether people want to admit it or not, the Eagles have become one of the NFL's biggest attractions, and the schedule reflects that completely. The season opens with a massive divisional matchup against the Washington Commanders at Lincoln Financial Field, and that game already feels like it could set the tone for the entire year. Philadelphia finally gets to open at home again, which is something Eagles fans desperately wanted after some frustrating schedule situations in recent years. The atmosphere for that game is going to be insane, especially because Washington has become a legitimate rival again. And looking at the early part of the schedule, there's a real chance the Eagles could build momentum quickly. After Washington, Philadelphia heads to Tennessee to face the Titans, and while some fans are already penciling that in as an automatic win, people around the team understand nothing comes easy in this league. Still, there's confidence that the Eagles have the roster advantage in that matchup, especially if the offense starts fast. Then comes one of the most interesting games early in the year, a Monday Night Football matchup in Chicago. There's unfinished business there after what happened last season, and even some Eagles supporters already view that game as one of the toughest road tests on the schedule. The physicality of Chicago, the environment, the national spotlight, everything about that matchup screams playoff intensity. Internally, though, the Eagles believe these are exactly the types of games this roster was built for. The bigger challenge may actually come a couple weeks later when Philadelphia heads overseas. The Eagles will travel to London for a matchup against the Jaguars at Tottenham Stadium, marking another international chapter for the franchise. And this isn't the same Jacksonville team people used to joke about years ago. The Jaguars are coming off a major season after finishing 13-4 and winning the AFC South, and there's a lot of respect around the league for what head coach Liam Cohen has built there. What makes this matchup even more fascinating is the history attached to it. The last time these two teams met, Saquon Barkley delivered one of the wildest highlights of the season with that reverse hurdle that instantly went viral across the football world. This time, though, the stage becomes even bigger with the entire international audience watching. And while the travel itself creates complications, there's also a hidden advantage in how the schedule was designed afterward. From roughly week 5 through week 12, Philadelphia barely has to travel at all. That matters much more than fans sometimes realize, because reduced travel means better recovery, more consistent preparation, and less physical wear on the roster over the course of the season. Then comes the stretch everybody in Philadelphia immediately circled: Dallas under the lights on Monday Night Football at the Link. There's a real possibility that becomes one of the loudest environments of the entire NFL season. Even people around the organization were already talking about the possibility of bringing back the Kelly Green uniforms for that game. game, which would only make the atmosphere even crazier. Rivalry games between the Eagles and Cowboys already feel different, but primetime in Philadelphia takes it to another level entirely. And after that, the season begins turning into a weekly war. The Commanders rematch in Washington, the Steelers after the bye, Thanksgiving in Dallas, Seattle, Houston on Christmas Eve, San Francisco late in the season. That closing stretch is brutal, but here's the interesting part. Internally, the Eagles don't seem intimidated by it at all. In fact, there's almost a feeling that this roster was specifically constructed for those heavyweight moments. Vic Fangio's defense is expected to carry a massive role during that stretch, especially against teams like San Francisco and Houston, where defensive execution could decide everything. The Eagles also quietly benefit from several favorable schedule details, multiple stretches of back-to-back home games, long periods with minimal travel, better recovery windows than last season. All of those little things matter once December football arrives. But while fans are focusing on the schedule, another storyline refuses to disappear: A.J. Brown, and the rumors surrounding him are becoming louder again. Multiple reports continue connecting Brown to New England, and as June approaches, people around the league increasingly believe something significant could happen. According to the latest information circulating, there's already a belief that framework discussions between the Eagles and Patriots have been happening quietly behind the scenes. Then came the report that really exploded among fans. A Boston radio personality claimed a source informed him that A.J. Brown had been looking at luxury condos in the Seaport area while speaking with management about residency options. Now, officially, it remains a rumor. Nothing has been confirmed publicly. But naturally, Eagles fans immediately started connecting the dots, because why would Brown be exploring living situations in Boston unless serious conversations were already happening? At the same time, there are still other teams being mentioned as possible suitors, including San Francisco, Kansas City, and Jacksonville. But the growing belief among several people following the situation closely is that New England remains the most likely destination if a move actually happens. And if it does, it could completely reshape the balance of the Eagles' offense. Because while Philadelphia has built impressive receiver depth, A.J. Brown is still A.J. Brown. You do not simply replace that kind of presence easily. His physicality, leadership, explosiveness, and chemistry with Hurts helped define this offense for years, which means the next few weeks may end up becoming one of the biggest turning points of the entire offseason. Does Philadelphia truly believe the younger weapons are ready to take over? Can Sean Mannion's new offense evolve enough to absorb that type of change? And most importantly, are